And for me, the greatest difference is that one of them, ayahuasca, it can show you hyperspace, but it also allows you to go deeper than hyperspace into the goddess realm. Hello, my friends of the Psychedelic Renaissance. It's Tom Hatzis, your psychedelic historian, and this is Ancient Kabbalism, Hyperspace, the Goddess Realm, and Non-Duality. Some of you will have caught my interview with Peter Boghossian. If not, it's already linked in the description box for you. Now, during that interview, I'd mentioned that both DMT and ayahuasca are considered N,N-dimethyltryptamine. And I found out after the fact that some people took that to think that I think that DMT and ayahuasca are the same thing. I'm not saying they're the same thing experientially. I mean, they're radically different. I was just saying that they're both N,N-dimethyltryptamine. We can think of it this way. A bottle of Budweiser beer and a bottle of tequila are both alcohol. However, if you were to drink an entire bottle of tequila, you would have a radically different experience than if you drank an entire bottle of Budweiser. In this video, I'd like to go over 3 realms of immateriality as accessible by DMT, ayahuasca, and 5-MeO-DMT. But before we get into it, if you're into this kind of content, please give this video a like and a share, subscribe to the channel, and find me on Instagram at Psychedelic Historian. However, because of what Meta's doing right now with like pretty much like destroying people's accounts if they have the word in the title, if you search Psychedelic Historian and it doesn't come up, just search Tom Hatzis, because I might change my handle just over to my name for that reason. Beginning with DMT. DMT gives us access to what Terence McKenna called hyperspace. Now, ayahuasca is different in that it will bring you to hyperspace, but it will also allow you into deeper dimensions, which I call the goddess realm, and I'll get into that in a moment. From what I can tell, the difference between those entities found in hyperspace and those found in the goddess realm is that with the former, we are dealing with psychic beings, whereas with the latter, we are dealing with spiritual beings. Psychic beings can be felt with the hands, like you can give a psychic being a high five. A spiritual being, however, can only be experienced in the soul. So while you might run into a goddess in hyperspace, I'd be very surprised if you were to run into an entity in the goddess realm. So far as my understanding at this point goes, spiritual beings can access the lower realms, but psychic entities cannot access the higher realms. And of course, if I ever encounter a psychic entity in the goddess realm, I will have to rethink my entire position on this. But I haven't yet. So if you already have, please let me know in the comments. I do read them all. Finally, we have 5-MeO-DMT, which brings on a state of non-dual union with, for lack of a better word, God. When dealing with 5-MeO-DMT, there is only union with all that is. I mean, you might get a glimpse of hyperspace or the goddess realm, but you are going to go way past those places with 5-MeO-DMT. I find that all 3 of these levels of experience tie into the cosmology of Kabbalism, the ancient Hebraic mystical tradition that seeks an understanding of God, the universe, and our place and relation with those things. When dealing with hyperspace and the goddess realm, I find that there are different areas within those dimensions. So folks might speak of entities, but one person will claim they look sort of like gray aliens, while another person will say they're more reptilian, like something David Icke would support. And you know what? That all makes sense to me. Well, not what David Icke says. That doesn't make any sense to me. What I mean is, it makes sense to me that people would encounter different kinds of entities in the same dimension. Other dimensions, so far as I can tell, at least the life forms found there, are just as varied as those found on Earth. So for example, imagine we have 2 entities, right, come to Earth. One of them goes to the Congo and hangs out with the pygmies, and the other goes to Sweden and hangs out with those like Thor-looking motherfuckers. Same dimension, same planet, radically different peoples and places. Or say a third entity joins them and goes scuba diving. Well, that entity is going to encounter life forms that are radically different from those found in the Congo or other places on Earth. And yet, same dimension, same planet. So what exactly is hyperspace? First, I should say that I believe hyperspace, and in fact all of these realms, exist as independent realities. And I think that because you'll have people going to these dimensions, especially hyperspace, and coming back and sharing similar experiences, right? They'll meet entities that either want to help them, or some of them will perform some kind of like psychic surgery on the person, or sometimes the entities are actually kind of pissed off that we've entered their dimension. So for me, that indicates a real place. It's kind of like people going to Disney World for the first time, right? Some people are going to meet Mickey Mouse and ride the runaway train. Other people are going to meet Donald Duck and go on what is it called? That ride. It's a Small World. Now, beyond hyperspace is the goddess realm. One reaches the goddess realm with ayahuasca, not DMT, or at least I can reach it with ayahuasca, and I never have with DMT. Because even though they are chemically similar, experientially, they are very different. Again, the difference between drinking a bottle of Budweiser or drinking a bottle of tequila. And for me, the greatest difference is that one of them, ayahuasca, it can show you hyperspace, but it also allows you to go deeper than hyperspace into the goddess realm. So, I mean, yeah, entities are really, really cool. But have you met the goddess? Way cooler in my opinion. So what are some more experiential differences between DMT and ayahuasca? Another way to think of hyperspace is, and I've referred to it before, as the machinery behind the universe. During our time in hyperspace, we can see how thoughts are formed. We can converse with entities, or as Terence McKenna called them, the elf clowns of hyperspace. And we could see where knowledge and epistemology manifests in our minds. Basically, we get to see the mechanics of heaven and earth and the props and pulleys that make it all work. To fully understand hyperspace, let's go to a place of which I believe we are all quite familiar: the bathroom. I like to think of hyperspace as a bathroom that's being built or remodeled, right? You go to your friend's house and they're installing a new bathroom, and you can see all the piping and such because the walls haven't been put up yet, right? The sink looks like it's sort of just hanging there, right? That is the machinery behind the bathroom. The machinery that allows the plumbing in the bathroom to work that will not be visible once the walls go up. Consider those walls going up our everyday reality. Taking the walls off is like smoking DMT. So DMT gives us access to that machinery behind the universe. With DMT, you get to see the piping before the walls of everyday reality are put up. You get to see the machinery behind the universe. For me, it is every bit as real as the machinery behind your toilet that makes it flush and sends all of our waste products to New Jersey. That is hyperspace. However, that piping, that sink, and that toilet, they are all made out of molecules. Those molecules are a deeper thing than just seeing the piping. You're getting down into the molecular structure of the copper, or is it steel? I don't know. I don't know what kind of metal they use. I'm not a plumber. They use some kind of metal. And that kind of metal, whatever it is made up of molecules. Those molecules, that's where the goddess realm is, which is obtainable through ayahuasca. DMT doesn't last long enough to break through hyperspace and allow access to the goddess realm, at least in my opinion. As I've discovered after several ayahuasca excursions, music is very necessary to bring the goddess. At least for me, again, I'm only speaking for myself, I cannot break into the goddess realm without music. Only music has the vibrational power to cut through hyperspace and into the goddess realm. After drinking ayahuasca, far too many people enter hyperspace and believe that that is the last stop on the tour. It is not. Music, icaros, they are as necessary as the sacred brew itself. I can drink ayahuasca, but if there is no music, I will likely get stuck in hyperspace. Mark these words: music brings the goddess. Now, where God is, as recognizable with 5-MeO-DMT, you realize that you are the piping, you are the sink, and yes, you are the toilet and its contents. You are the molecules of the goddess realm. There is no separation between us and the piping behind the wall of the bathroom. That grand dance that mere mortals cannot fully comprehend without the aid of a small Sonoran desert toad, that I call God. So what does any of this have to do with Kabbalism, as the title of this video would indicate? Good question. I mentioned Kabbalism due to the recognition that we have to get beyond the meat brain to access any of these areas. And Kabbalists have been doing that for centuries, and in a small way anticipate the three worlds of hyperspace, the goddess realm, and the non-dual God state. Now these dimensions the Kabbalists refer to as Ein Sof Or, Ein Sof, and Ein. The first and lowest level, Ein Sof, or translates to limitless light. Just like trying to stare at the sun on a warm summer day. You can't do it. It's too radiant. It's too brilliant. I mean, you'll go blind. That, for me, is, anyway, for lack of a better analogy, hyperspace. But it is not the God of the universe, or the goddesses, or any spiritual beings for that matter. So when people take DMT and come at me like, hey asshole, where was that goddess you spoke of? Where was God? Well, you didn't have the right sunglasses on yet. If you were to see the goddess or god in hyperspace, it would blow out your retinas and quite possibly short-circuit your brain. DMT, again for lack of a better analogy, does not provide you with the correct sunglasses to see divinity. It does provide you with the correct sunglasses to see psychic beings. Sure, I mean, you do have sunglasses on, so you can stare at the sun slightly longer than someone who isn't wearing sunglasses, right? Well, again, that's what I refer to as hyperspace. But at some point, you will not be able to withstand the glare. You need a thicker lens prescription, so to speak, to see the goddess realm, which I find is available through ayahuasca. And of that goddess realm, which the Kabbalists call Ein Sof, translates to without limit. Now, I would diverge from the Kabbalist tradition in this sense, in that I believe the goddess is limited in some ways. Just because the goddess is the source of all life and consciousness does not mean that she knows everything that ever was. Like, I find it honestly so elementary when atheists ask me, how come your goddess doesn't know this or that or the other thing or everything? And it's like, yeah, well, you are smuggling a Christian concept, meaning an all-knowing deity, into a non-Christian religion, which is mine. The idea of an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-benevolent God is a product of Christianity. Ancient pagans, and I consider myself a modern pagan, had no such all-knowing gods. I mean, even the Jews didn't have that, which is why when you read Genesis, chapter 3, verses 8 and 9, when Yahweh is walking through the Garden of Eden, he doesn't know where Eve and Adam are. In fact, so far as I know, Christianity, or any other religion influenced by it, is the only religion that invokes an all-knowing God. So when atheists ask me that, I'm all like, whoa, that is quite the Christian worldview there, fella. And truth be told, I think priests just made that up to keep people in line. Like the idea of an all-knowing God, I mean, it's essentially Santa Claus for adults. And finally, we get to the highest sphere there is, non-duality, or what the Kabbalists would call ein, which means no thing. That which is inaccessible to the meat brain, because the meat brain works in dualities, right? Up and down, in and out, moving or motionless. Since God a priori exists beyond limitations, it cannot have a dualistic nature to it. As just a brief and easy example, if God were a male, then it could not be a female, and therefore it would be limited. That's like another Christian or Judeo-Christian concept is the idea that God is male. God is not male or female. That is a human thing that we do. God is ultimate unity, the pinnacle of the non-dual experience. And since we are stuck with our meat brains, divinity cannot be known through it. Now, this goes back to the thoughts of Thomas Aquinas that I addressed in my Christian and Psychedelics video from a few weeks ago. Anyway, that is why the Kabbalists refer to this realm as ein, or the no thing, because it can't be something we can know, at least in my opinion, without the aid of an entheogen. Only entheogens allow us access beyond the meat brain to other dimensions that, in my humble estimations, are every bit as real as the one we currently occupy. Well, my friends, that's all I have for you this time, and I'd love to thank you for stopping by. If you found value in this content, please give this video a like and a share, subscribe to the channel, and find me on Instagram at either Psychedelic Historian or Tom Hatsis. And until we meet again, I'm Tom Hatsis, your psychedelic historian, reminding you that you free your mind by using your brain. Peace.